My friends, we have some new NRMP Charting Outcomes data that was just launched end of July 2026. So I wanted to share with you what the data is showing. This is specialtyrank.com. It's a free website that compiles all the official NRMP data so that you can make a better informed decision. If you are shooting for, whatever specialty you're shooting for, you know where you lie and what your targets should be, whether you're MD, DO, and IMG as well, including US or non-US IMG. So we'll get into all that data, but in short, the way the system works is that every 2 years historically, so going back to 2014 and every 2 years since, NRMP releases charting outcomes. And they go through every specialty. They show the match rate, the average step 2 score, and also previously the step 1 score when it was actually scored. Research items, new for this year, they actually have the research mix. So you can see the number of publications, presentations, and abstracts, not just the total research item. Prior years were only the total research item count. AOA status, top 40 NIH, and then we add compensation ourselves, primarily from Medscape and also some other sources when we need to fill in gaps, but that'll be added very soon. But for prior years, we have compensation as well. A few things to note. Number one is that charting outcomes is going to be coming out every single year moving forward. So it's historically been every 2 years, but now they're going to do it every single year. I'm very interested to see how research item count changes with the new 2027 scholarly work updates. But no surprise here, in 2026, as I have stated in many other videos, you're going to see the research item count is substantially higher than prior years because we are in the research arms race, right? So if you go to 2024, and we're just sorting from the most to least number of research items, it was 37, 35, 28, and now it is 51, 46, 35, 34. It is just bananas that it keeps ramping up. 2022, nothing was even in the 30s. 2020, nothing was even past 25. So every single year, it keeps ramping up. We are in the research arms race. Step 1 going pass fail did not change that competitive things are competitive and that incentives are still there. It just changed what we are now optimizing for. Research has become one of those things. The way the system works, again, we have all these different fields from NRMP charting outcomes, and then what we've created is a default weighting. So these are the default weightings that you can also customize because we want this tool to be as useful to you as possible. So, match rate, step 2 score are going to be the two most heavily weighted things by default because those are the two most important factors, right? Research items, you could even make the argument that it should be weighted more heavily now, but when we first created this overall rubric several years ago, we had match rate and step score as the number 1, and then research items less, and then of course AOA and top 40 NIH is a lot less important than these other factors. Now, if you disagree with this weighting, the cool thing is that you can actually change this however you want. So you can say, you know what, step 2 score is the most important thing, and I'm going to make everything else 0. And now these scores down here will actually update in real time, and then you can see what is the most to least competitive. And this is now just going to essentially rank them based on step 2 score. But if you say, well, step 2 score is half of the overall competitiveness of a specialty and research items are the other half, then you're going to have, half and half, and etc. You can customize the weighting however you want. And then if you want that report saved for you, you can email that report to yourself. So I'm going to go back to default weightings. And if you go back to prior years, of course, there was step 1 as well. So just keep that in mind. You can play with the data. There are some interesting misconceptions out there. People think that I'm like gaming the system to try to make plastic surgery more competitive because I mashed into plastic surgery. Look, I don't really care. I just care about data. I think having good data, clean data that is well presented and easy to understand allows us to make better decisions. So that's why I wear a CGM, even though I'm not diabetic, for like the last 6 to 7 years. Or I use a sleep tracker every night for the better part of a decade. I think having data is actually very useful. So I made this free tool for all of you to enjoy, to find value. And anyways, let's get into this year's data. So 2026, we're going to reset to defaults. From the default weighting, here is the order. No surprise, thoracic surgery is actually number 1. And I've been saying that for some time. In fact, here is a recording I had with an actual medical student. And this was about a month ago before the NRMP outcomes data was released. But here's what I said about thoracic surgery. So I think CT I6, going back to this, I think it might actually be the number 1 most competitive thing. I think there's only I think in the recent years, there's only 50 spots or something, insanely tiny. So I hope that they include it in upcoming, this upcoming year's data. I'm pretty sure it would be even above derm because it has so few spots. Yeah, so as I predicted, thoracic surgery is number 1. And the reason it hasn't been higher previously is simply because NRMP wasn't reporting it. So we only include data here that we have the full data set on, with the one exception of ophthalmology. Ophthalmology in 2025 actually released a more comprehensive report that allowed us to include everything except for top 40 NIH percentage. So the way that we actually score ophthalmology is that we don't count top 40 NIH, but we now scale the other things proportionally to fill in the gap. So that's the best that we can do with incomplete data. Now, urology and thoracic surgery back here were not included because they were missing too many data fields. Ophthalmology we can include because it has only one field that's missing. In 2026, oh, by the way, so even though it's 2024 year selected here, this is actually 2025 data. Now, since Charting Outcomes doesn't have 2025 data, we decided to put ophthalmology in the 2024 data set. Again, it's not perfect. We're just trying to do the best that we can with imperfect data and imperfect solutions. It's all trade-offs, right? So 2026 now does have ophthalmology's 2026 data, but same thing. They don't actually give us the NIH percentage. So we're going to do the same thing of cross that out, zero that out, and then scale these to fill in the gap. So not perfect, but it's the best that we can do with incomplete data. So yeah, not surprisingly, thoracic surgery is number one by a pretty substantial margin. And I think the reason I've been saying this previously too is because it is such a small specialty, and ultimately competitiveness comes down to supply and demand. The number of supply and demand, to be more explicit there, is the supply of seats and the demand of how many of those seats are wanted by graduating medical students who want to go into that specialty. So thoracic surgery has so few seats. I think it was like, I don't know off the top of my head, I think it was somewhere in like the 50s, if I recall correctly. That is tiny. That's absolutely tiny. So that is why I am not surprised to see them here. Actually, almost, what is that? 4.5 points above plastic surgery. Now, for those who are wondering about the tier system is just like an arbitrary way of having some cutoffs. You know, it's just based on the number. So the way that the number works is that this is ordinal, meaning if you rank the step score descending, thoracic surgery and ophthalmology both have the highest number of points. Like this would be 24 points each for these two. And then plastic surgery would get 23 points, as would dermatology and ortho and ENT. And then diagnostic radiology would get, 22 and so on and so forth. Actually, when you tie, it rounds down, not up. But you get the point. So you just get a point per specialty from its ordinal ranking here. So this would have 1 point. This would have 2 points. This would have 3 points. 3, 3. And then I think because we skip, because of the tie, I think this would just be 4, or is it 5? I don't remember off the top of my head, so I'd have to go back and look at how it's calculated. But we are mindful of ties to make sure that we're not treating specialties unfairly. In fact, what's kind of funny is that when we recently worked on the range video of like how competitive is a specialty over a range of years, which is essentially each year you get a total point. And if you go back each year, we just add up the points per year and then average them out. So when we were doing our preliminary data analysis, we actually had dermatology as number one for the last, I don't know, it was like 2014 to 2024, because we wanted to do this before the 2026 data was released. And dermatology was number one. But then I realized there was an issue with the tie system, the tie mechanism, whereby rather than giving two specialties with the same step score, the same number of points, it was actually giving one specialty a point more. So then when I fixed that, plastic surgery then goes to number one. And my team was like, ah, man, we were hoping that dermatology would be number one, because now, of course, me making a video that says plastic surgery is number one, some people, I don't know if it's projection or their own whatever, but they think that I'm like gaming the system. It's like, I'm just showing data. You guys have complete access here. Do what you want with the data. It doesn't really matter to me if plastic surgery is the top or the bottom or the middle. I'm just here to report data as cleanly and as objectively as possible. And if you have some different way of weighting these things, then by all means go for it and let us know what you find. All right, looks like I'm getting a call here. Okay. Yeah. All right, so this is my team. They're telling me that some viewers feel that anytime I mention plastic surgery being ranked number one it's hurtful. It makes them feel inferior? That's not right. Okay, we can't have that. No, I agree. All right, guys. So It sounds like anytime I mention plastic surgery being more competitive, it triggers some people. We can't have that. So what I'm actually going to do, forget this objective ranking system. This doesn't matter. Who cares about what the data says about specialty competitiveness in a highly objective way? Let's make sure that everyone feels good about this. And unfortunately, I mashed into plastic surgery. So if only I mashed into like, I don't know, general surgery instead or something, then we wouldn't have this issue. But anyways, let's make sure that we fix the data. Let's fix the data. So I guess it was probably the data set, because we did this 2014 to 2024 data, plastic surgery number 1. Let's change some things here. So can we do top 40? Oh, no, it's top plastic still number 1. Do that. Oh, there. Okay, there we go. We got plastic surgery number 2, derm number 1. We can do that. That works. What if we do step 2 higher? Yeah. Okay, good. I need plastic surgery not in the top 2 though, man. Come on. Come on. Okay, I can't get plastic surgery out of the top 2. What if I just go by a single year? Okay, 2026. There we go. It's number 3. Can we get it out of the top 3 though? Damn. Number 2. Research. Okay, that's number 1. Again, no, definitely don't want that. Oh, here we go. 3. Now, top 40. Now. Oh, there we go. There we go. Our new system, guys. We're going to have 0% match rate, 0% research items, 29% step 2 score, 23% AOA status, and top 40 NIH also at 0%, because that way we get plastic surgery as number 4. The system is fixed. I hope you guys enjoy. And I'm glad, guys, that after all these years, we can finally have our priorities straight, because forget data and objectivity and being unbiased when reporting data. We should definitely make sure that we highlight and silence any offensive data. And I think that plastic surgery being in the top 3 or top 2 or number 1 is highly offensive. But now I'm glad that we have this much more reasonable custom weighting to get plastic surgery number 4. So yeah, anyways, the reason that we did that 10 year is that every year you're going to see some movement. So in 2026, as an example, thoracic surgery number 1, plastic surgery number 2, dermatology number 3, ortho number 4, neurosurgery number 5, right? The top 5, I guess now top 6, with ENT now being bumped down because thoracic surgery has finally been added. The grouping doesn't really change. It's just the order. So here you're going to see the same specialties this time in 2024. Derm's number 1, neurosurgery is number 2, plastics is number 3, ortho, ENT, ophthalmology, right? So these top 5 are not changing. 2022, same thing here. Top 5 not changing. Again, the order within can go up or down a little bit, because each of these variables are so close that just going up or down a little bit will change the overall ranking. Same thing here. Top 5 not changing. Let's see, top 5. Ooh, interventional radiology was very competitive this year. This is the first year so far where, ENT got bumped down out of the top 5 and IR was up. And then back to the original top 5. And then here as well, back to the original top 5. So every year except for 2018, the top 5 were unchanged, just the order within them. So anyways, by doing the decade-long comparison, we're able to talk about trends over time rather than the noise that small variation year to year. So let's go back to 2026. What are some of the key lessons here? And we're going to have some additional content on this. Again, the tier system is just a way to cluster things. But what you're going to see is that in the very and the hyper competitive tiers, which are above 80 and above 90 points. And again, the points are just calculated in the way that I was telling you earlier. The theoretical maximum is 100 points, and this is just based on their ordinal ranking across each of these variables. So what you're going to see in the very and the hyper is that the research item averages are just absolutely insane. And as I've predicted in prior videos, because of incentives, this keeps pushing up. Again, we're going to see how scholarly work changes affects that. But the cool thing now is that NRMP gives you the research mix, which they never did previously. So in previous years, you would only see the total research item count. And the reason this is so interesting is that, as you can see from the bars here, there is a relative proportion, except for ophthalmology, because ophthalmology does not report presentations, right? So they only report publications and abstracts. But you're going to see that the proportion of publications to presentations to abstracts is roughly similar-ish across specialties. But when you go to the very top here, thoracic surgery, 12.6 with a total of 34.8. Plastic surgery, 50.8. That's 16 more than thoracic surgery. But only one more publication, 12.6 to 13.6. Isn't that interesting? The presentation count and also the abstract count is just notably higher. So we'll be diving deeper in future videos that are trying to explain what can be happening with these interesting patterns. But again, need to say these disclaimers because I think people like to project or insecurities or whatever it is. A specialty being more or less competitive does not make you a better or worse doctor or more or less valuable. In terms of like saving lives, these two specialties are not really saving lives in the same way that, you know, some specialties down here definitely are, right? So again, it's not about what's better or worse or you being more or less valuable. It's simply data that we should be able to talk about objectively, because every year you're going to hear noise about people saying,
oh my God, psychiatry is now the new neurosurgery.
And this was happening, what, in like 2022 or something? And it's like, well, no, maybe it went up by 1 or 2 slots, but it's not that competitive, right? So like, why is that relevant? Medical students need to know what they should be shooting for in terms of targets with step scores, with research count, with et cetera, et cetera. So anyways, disclaimer aside, because people in this day and age like to be offended when there's literally nothing to be offended by, but they choose to project their own whatever on other people. So again, to reiterate, whether a specialty is more or less competitive does not make the specialty better or worse. It's just a matter of supply and demand. And that's interesting because it reflects what you guys, med students and residents, actually value. So to summarize, I think that it is very fascinating, right? Because this is fundamentally supply and demand. Now, we're not affecting the supply of seats, but we, as medical students, medical trainees, residents, and so on, we are affecting the demand of these specialties. So it's very interesting to see what things are in more or less demand, because it illustrates that I think people say certain things, but people act a certain way. It's about stated versus observed preferences, right? So people say that lifestyle and money and whatever doesn't matter. And then when you look at the data, it's not a perfect correlation, but there clearly is a strong correlation whereby compensation and lifestyle are more competitive and more desirable on a population level. So again, doesn't make types of doctors better or worse, which is obvious, and I've never stated anything otherwise. But for those who need to hear it, there it is. And also, I don't care if plastic surgery is number 1, number 2, number 10. I just report data in a highly objective and systematic way, and you guys can play with the data yourself. I even made this whole custom weighting thing because I know that some people will disagree and say, you know what, now that research is more blah, 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 let's actually decrease this and let's increase the research item more. And how does that change things? It'll actually update real time, which I'm very proud of. It's a very cool system. So you'll see that ophthalmology and general surgery actually swap spots by changing that. Or step 2 score is not as important, match rate is, and you can see there's some movement down here that's happening, and you can do that for any of these years. So it's a very cool tool, very interactive. I'm quite proud of it. We will be updating 2026 compensation in the near future, but if you have requests or suggestions for this tool, then do let me know. And let me know what you think of this new 2026 data. And what I think is the most shocking thing, which is how much, I knew research was going to jump, but like 51 is bananas. Let me know with a comment down below. Much love. I'll see you in the next one.